Are you my juicy?
What? Very beautiful.
Tell us about the Renaissance woman.
Very sociable.
What?
Outgoing.
Yes.
Nice body.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Strong. And smart. What?
I was bringing this up to my roommate last night, and we were sitting there watching him.
No, that's good. I mean, that's. I mean, don't you think that sounds like a good Renaissance woman?
It's the perfect Renaissance woman.
Yeah, goddamn. We wish there were more of those out there in the wilds of Boston.
Why are you asking me the question?
Because you're a girl, and we consider you to be an expert.
It's always tough because nowadays, in like postmodernismville, we always have the ubiquitous nature of the camera always following us and always tracking our every move.
What camera are you talking about, my friend?
All right, I'm talking about the camera of God in the sky. But
well, what about the camera of the mass media? I mean, don't you think the camera? No, but honestly, don't you think the camera of the mass media has become the new God? But the thing is, there's no God behind the media, and that's kind of the cool thing about it, is that it's like the camera of the mass media has become God, and people like Jerry Springer have become the saints. You know, he's like Saint Francis of the animals. You know, but the cool thing about it is there's no God, because at the very top, at the part where it really matters, there are just a bunch of competing corporations that are owned by all the little people who have pension funds and stocks in these public corporations. It's a fucking great system, and it's all economic. It's not based on government. It's not based on politics. And it's, I don't know, did you ever see that movie, Network? Oh, it's like this early 70s lefty movie about how the media is going to take over the world, and it's so true. And it's like,
how about guys in Renaissance?
wait, what?
How about guys? What are they?
Guys?
Yeah.
Last inventory I heard in the public domain was something like, girls are sugar and spice and everything nice, and boys are snails and puppy dog tails and other kinds of like fucking controlled substances.
Not to dismiss the point that you just made, but it seems kind of very 1991, 1992. You know, Camille Paglia in her Sexual Persona, presents the whole idea that, the media and all these celebrities are kind of like, the Greek pantheon. They are the true gods of today.
Absolutely.
But,
no, I totally agree with that.
With the world of, like, reality television at this very moment, it's like, it's really fucking with our understandings of the self. And,
but for the good or ill. I mean, I think that, first of all, we need something to fuck with the soul. And in the past, it was religion, but religion doesn't fuck with the soul anymore.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. There's some pockets of it, like Falun Gong, or born-again Christians,
right,
or Hasidim, but basically everybody's secular, right, and they're fucking polarized.
Right.
Like, I know so many Jews, half my family's Jewish, none of them are religious, and they all go to synagogue.
Right.
They don't believe in God. They don't believe in all the Jewish mythology, but they go to synagogue every Sunday because it's an ethnic identity.
Yeah.
It's part of their power structure. Do you know what I'm talking about, Masako? What about the Japanese?
What?
The Japanese are the most homogeneous culture in developed country culture on Earth, and almost everybody in Japan, Masako, is Japanese. Like, that seemed, I mean, like ethnically, genetically Japanese.
So what? What's wrong?
There's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. In fact, if you're a Nazi, that's the best there is, and that's why the Nazis and the Imperial Japanese got along so well, because they both believed in racial purity. But the thing is that Germany has not really been able to maintain that, whereas I mean, really to a certain extent, but Japan, absolutely fucking racial purity.
I mean, yeah.
It's the most homogeneous culture on earth.
Yeah.
So what?
No, but that's amazing because you're a representative of it, and you're here in our midst, and it's really interesting to have a specimen, as it were.
What's a specimen?
The thing that is looked at in a microscope. Oh, I see. Oh, you know what I see? I see a rippling. Rippling. Oh, where you get rippling, huh? Rippling from guiro. Guiro, first thing that happens, meet guiro. Second thing that happens, guiro by Chinese girl ice cream. Third thing that happens, guiro by Chinese girl drug. Chinese girl take drug. She die. Guiro get another Chinese girl. Oh.
But
Oh.
it is kind of interesting though that the Japanese and Germans are known as the kind of archetypal, you know, presenters of nationalism. You know, at least within the past couple hundred years. You know, we always focus upon the Germans, but the Japanese did as well with Tito and such. You know, but and we all know at this point that, you know, nationalism is, you know, the last refuge of the scoundrel. But it's kind of interesting as to how that perhaps came about. You know what I mean? Like
what nationalism?
What is it then that brings that out in human beings?
Have you talked to Peter about this?
Not so much.
Well, I have a little bit, and I know where he's coming from. And it's kind of like, the weird thing about it is that Peter and I are like a real mix of races. Like, I'm Mediterranean and Nordic, which is like hyper-Teutonic.
Yeah.
So I'm like hyper-Teutonic and practically black, right? Because, you know, it's greasy Italian Mediterraneans, like my family, you know, we're practically black in that sense. Even though they have a long other history, which makes it even worse, because they were a bunch of Spanish Jews who were chased out of Spain during the 1400s,
Right.
1450 to 1550, during the Spanish Inquisition.
Right. Let me ask you a question about that. Actually, you can go in after this. But did a population of them go into Ireland, and that's how we got the Black Irish, or are they?
No, actually,
are they
no.
Moors that you know, immigrated to there?
The Black Irish are Moors that were in the Roman army, and when the Roman army came and kicked the Celts' butts, because the Celts had a really incompatible, like, they didn't have the technology of the Romans. The Romans had steel swords, and in those days, if you had a steel sword, forget it. You got to beat people to ribbons. Didn't matter how brave they were, you know? And the Celts didn't have steel swords, and so they died. But the Romans then easily occupied Ireland, and along with the Romans, because Romans were Mediterranean people, swarthy, greasy Guidos to begin with, right? And then they brought with them like half Guido, half black people, which were the Moors, right? And the Moors were fierce warriors, but they were also passionate, smart people. And the first thing they did was like find themselves a nice colleen to bed.
Right.
And the next, and besides, they were encouraged by Rome to do that,
Right.
because Rome realized that there's really no integration except through genetics.
Yeah.
Like
No
if American soldiers were like in Iraq, fucking those Iraqi women, which they want to do, by the way.
Yeah.
There's actually a whole bunch of them that want to marry. They met all these Iraqi women. Can you imagine the intimate experience they're having? It's unbelievable, you know, like controlling these people's lives and deaths in this like ideological struggle at the very, very cutting edge of geopolitics. And they meet these beautiful, beautiful women. You know, as one friend of mine said, like when we invaded Afghanistan, she goes, "It's so amazing that everybody we're fighting against in Afghanistan looks like a movie star."
Yeah.
Like they have these beautiful faces. You know, Afghanistan especially, because that's where the whole Caucasian look came from, because it's very close to the Caucasus.
Well, I think that perhaps might be socially constructed rather than genetic. You know, we have certain